All right, let's begin our unit on statistics. Why don't we see what you know right off the bat? See if you can match these with these definitions. Give yourself 30 seconds and just do a little match, and then we'll check your answers. Okay, well, the collection of related information is a set of data. Okay, the average of the data values, this is the mean. The word mean and average are interchangeable. Okay, the number that occurs most frequently is the mode. The median is the middle number when you list the data in order. And then the measure of central tendency is a value that represents the center of the set of data. And we can use either the mean, median, or mode. Those are all considered measures of central tendency. Okay, so let's talk about each one individually. First of all, the mode. It says Frank, a cafeteria manager, wants to know which type of sandwich is the most popular. He records the sales of each type of sandwich for 1 week. So each of these numbers represent how many of each of those sandwiches are sold. Determine the mode. Now, if you look back to what mode is, it's the number that occurs most frequently. Okay, so we look at this list, which of these numbers occurs the most frequently? It looks like there's 2 of them. The grilled veggie, the steak and cheese, both occur 76 times. So let's write that. The grilled veggie and the steak and cheese. Okay, is the mode the best measure to use to determine the most popular sandwich? Well, the other measures of central tendency are mean and median. So median, if we listed all these numbers, we would pick the middle number, and mean would be if we took the average number. Well, I hope it makes sense to you that mode is the best one, because if I was selling sandwiches, I would want to know which one is the most popular. In other words, which one happens the most often. Okay, so you might want to say that. Is the mode yes? Why is it the best? As an owner, I would want to know which sandwich sells the most or happens the most. Okay, in this case, that's the mode. Okay, so that's where we would use mode. Let's try this question. The fuel consumption of 10 hybrid cars of the same model was tested. The following results were obtained. So these are numbers listed. Okay, determine the mode. Which one happens the most often? It's often makes sense to list these numbers in order from least to greatest. Then you can see which one happens the most. But if you examine them closely, I think you can see there are 2 that are 4.8 and there are 2 that are 6.2. So those are our modes. They are the ones that happen the most often. Okay, should you use the mode to represent the fuel consumption of these 10 cars? No, I don't think so. I think it would make more sense to use the average here. Okay, this doesn't fairly represent all the cars just because that happens to be the numbers that occur the most often. Okay, a car with 4.8 has a real advantage. There's a difference between the 2 modes, so it wouldn't give the consumer the best information. Okay, so I think in this case, you're probably better off using mean. Would be a better way to describe the fuel consumption. So in mean, you would add them all up and you would find the average. What is the average fuel consumption for these cars? That would probably be a better way to do it. Okay, let's take a look at median. So the median is the middle number. So Fish and Wildlife Officer records the weights of trout caught in a lake. Their weights to the nearest pound are listed here. Determine the median weight. Okay, for us to do the middle, we actually have to arrange them from least to greatest. So I'm going to say we need to rearrange from least to greatest. This is important. Okay, so let's go through this list. What's the smallest number? It looks like 1. And then I have 1.1. And then I have 1.5. And then 1.6. Okay, notice that I'm crossing them off as I write them down. That way I know what I've written down and what I've forgotten. Okay, looks like 2.3 is the next one. And then 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, and 3. And I think that's all of them. So now let's count how many there are. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what's the middle? Okay, well, if you're having a hard time thinking about what the middle is, sometimes it helps to do this. If I cancel off the first and the last, and then cancel off the next two, and then the next two, and then the next two, you can see that there are 2 in the middle here. And if I go 1.9 plus 2.3 and divide that by 2, so this is going to be the average of these two, the middle would be 2.1, and in this case it's pounds. Okay, if you don't know that abbreviation, we can just write pounds. Okay, is the median the best measure to represent the typical weight of a caught fish? It's a good measure for a typical size trout because this tells you that, half the fish caught were heavier, half the fish caught were light. So that's not a bad method. Let's say yes, because half of the fish caught are heavier and half are lighter. Okay. So you guys pause the video, see if you can do this one. Remember that you have to write them out from least to greatest first. Okay, so here's our list, least to greatest. How many of you started with the biggest negative number as your least? You might have got tricked by that. You might have started at 0 and actually counted backwards. It probably would work for you, but we want to try to go with least first. Okay. By the way, if you look at this list, it's really nice for finding mode. You just kind of look along the list, and right away you can see like there would be 3 of those. Are there any 3 of any other kind? Yeah, there are 3 of those. So mode would be really easy to find once you've listed them like this. Okay. But we're not looking for mode. We're looking for median. So how many numbers are there, first of all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. All right. So we could do what we did last time. We could start crossing off the first and the last. Or if you said, I want 31 divided by 2, this gives you 15.5. This tells you that the middle number is actually going to be the 16th number. Okay? Because that would give you 15 that are smaller and 15 that are greater. Okay, so we're looking for the 16th number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Negative 11 is the median. Okay, The most likely low temperature for January is the median. Is this statement reasonable? Well, what they're saying is if we said that -11 is the most likely temperature to occur, it kind of makes sense. If you think about it, every day in January, they always give you the high temperature and the low temperature. So the median, the temperature right in the middle, kind of makes sense. Okay, so I think we could say yes, except that my pen's not working. We could say yes. Again, we could also say that this tells us that half of the temperatures are above and half are below. Okay, 50% are above -11 and 50% are below. All right. Next, we're going to deal with mean and weighted mean. Okay, and you'll see what weighted mean means in a second. Let's do mean first. So this is one that you probably have used more often than any of those other ones. I mean, how many times have you thought about what is your mark in class, and it's the average of the things you've done. Okay, so here it says, it gives you a bunch of marks, and it says these are the average, or these are the marks. What is the average mark? Okay, how do you find the average? Well, you take the number of marks, there's 5 of them, add them up, and then divide by 5, because there are 5 numbers. Okay, now be careful when you put this in your calculator. My advice to you is put a little equals when you type that in. Okay, and so you should get 380 divided by 5, and this gives you an average of 76%. Okay, that's the average mark, the mean. Okay, now weighted mean is another way to do this, and this is actually how your mark is calculated, because your tests and your homework are not worth the same amount. Okay, so we're going to look at an example of that. So it says homework counts for 10%. So we'll put a 10 in here because we're only going to take 10% of the 90. Quizzes count for 20%. Projects count for 15%. The exams are 50%, and oral presentations are 5%. This should add up to 100%. Okay, this would be 100%. All right, so now let's look at this product of weighting and the mark. So what we're going to do is multiply each of these. Okay, so this would give you 900. This would give you 1,240. This would give you 1,020. Okay, we're just multiplying across here. All right, and this would give you 425. And so you end up with 7,335. That's the weighting times what the mark is. Okay, now the weighted mean is the sum of the product, so that's all of these numbers. Okay, so you would get 7,335 divided by 100. And so this means that Tristan's average is 73.35, or we'll say 73%. Now, just back up a little bit. You see this fancy notation. This weird shape, this thing here means sum, and sum means adding. Okay, so all this says is add all of the weighted values, that's this over here, and then divide it by the total percent, the weighting percent, which should always be 100. Okay? So now the question says, which gives a higher average? So this was 73. Our last one was 76. So what does this mean? Okay, which average is higher? The mean, which was 76, is higher. Why is that? Okay, well, if we count all of these numbers as being equal, you can see that his best marks were for homework and for oral presentations, but those are actually worth the least in the final mark. Okay, so that's important to understand, that weighting says some things are more important, and so then the average changes slightly. Okay, so we can say that Y is higher in the mean. Tristan's highest marks were for the parts that were weighted the least. Okay, why do you think the teacher uses weighted means? Well, it's to put more weight, to value more the things that we believe are the most important. Okay, so what do we think is more important? Well, we think that how you do on a test is more important than whether you do well in the homework. Okay, so we'll say more value is placed on the categories that are more important. Okay, so you can say, instead of weighting, you can say, instead of value, you can say more weighting is placed in the categories that are more important. Alright, pause the video and see if you can do this one. So we're going to do the same kind of question, find the average and then find the weighted average. Okay? So pause your video. Alright, so you're back. The mean, if we add all of these up, 80 plus 77 plus 75 plus 72 plus 82, we're going to divide that by 5 because there's 5 objects. So this is 386 divided by 5, which gives you 77%. That would be the mark if there was no weighting. Okay. But now let's see if we do weighting. So you're going to go 20% times 80. You're going to go 20% times 77. You're going to go 10% times 75, 10% times 72, and 40% times 82. Okay, so this would give me 1600, this would give me 1540, this would give me 750, 720, sorry, yeah. Oh, I looked backwards. The oral presentations was actually 82. I didn't read that carefully. And this was 72. So this is 820. Okay, and then the last one would be 2,380. If I add those up, I get this. And so what is the weighted mean? It's going to be 7,590 divided by 100%. So this is 75.9, which we will call 76%. Okay, so the mark is a little bit higher. Or sorry, a little bit lower this way. Janelle is updating her resume by including her current averages. Should she use the weighted mean for her geography mark? This is geography. No, I think I would use the other mean. No. The mean is higher than the weighted mean. All right. So, first assignment for you. Please do assignment 1. Okay, and we will have questions in class that we'll do in our next class. So hopefully you know how to do this, okay? Put what you need to on the cheat sheet and get this done.